Captain Day One stood at the viewport of the Imperial survey vessel, Eternal Glory, watching the blue-green planet rotate slowly beneath them. Earth, as the natives called it. Just another world to add to the Empire's vast collection. "Captain, I need to speak with you," Science Officer Hana said, hurrying onto the bridge with a data tablet clutched to her chest. Her usually calm face showed clear concern. "What is it now?" Day One sighed. Hana was brilliant but cautious to a fault. The Empire hadn't conquered half the galaxy by being cautious. "The readings from Earth are troubling," Hana said, handing him the tablet. "The gravity is 1.3 times higher than our homeworld. Most colonized planets in the Empire range from 0.7 to 0.9. Day One waved his hand dismissively. "Our troops train for high-gravity environments." "Yes, but that's not all." Hana's fingers danced across the screen, bringing up new charts. "The biodiversity is off the charts. We've identified over 10 million distinct species already. Most developed worlds have fewer than 2 million. And this matters because such biodiversity suggests a highly competitive evolutionary environment. The creatures there, including the dominant species, have survived constant biological warfare." Hana pulled up images of Earth's creatures. "Look at these predators. They've evolved perfect killing machines in every habitat." Lieutenant Bow stepped closer, examining the images. "Those are some nasty teeth on that water predator." "They call it a shark," Hana explained. "It's remained virtually unchanged for hundreds of millions of years because it's already perfectly adapted for killing." Day One handed the tablet back. "Interesting biology lesson, but irrelevant. Our scans show their technology is primitive. Chemical propulsion rockets, combustion, ground vehicles, digital computers. They haven't even colonized their own moon permanently." "That's what concerns me," Hana persisted. "How could a species survive on such a hostile world yet advance so slowly?" Unless what?" Day One asked, patience wearing thin. "Unless the environment itself is so challenging that mere survival consumes most of their innovation." The bridge fell silent. Day One was about to respond when the communications officer announced, "Admiral Jin is hailing us from the command vessel." The main screen illuminated with Admiral Jin's stern face, his decorated uniform displaying dozens of conquest medals. "Captain Day One, your initial survey report is overdue." "Apologies, Admiral. We were just completing our analysis." Day One straightened his posture. "Earth appears technologically undeveloped, but does present some unusual—" "Skip the details." Jin interrupted. "Classification." Day One hesitated, glancing at Hana's worried expression. "Standard protocol suggests Class 3, sir. Minimal resistance expected." Admiral Jin nodded approvingly. "Excellent. The conquest fleet is already assembled. We'll begin invasion preparations immediately." Hana stepped forward. "Admiral, if I may—" "Who is this?" Jin frowned. "Science Officer Hana, sir. I believe we should proceed with caution. This planet shows anomalous readings that—" Jin's laugh cut her off. "The Empire doesn't proceed with caution, Science Officer. We proceed with overwhelming force." The Admiral's image was joined by another, a thin, elderly man with deep-set eyes. "Senior Biologist Tae-ho requests permission to speak, Admiral." Jin sighed visibly. "Make it quick." "Tae-ho!" "I've reviewed Officer Hana's data," Tae-ho said. "Her concerns are valid. Earth's atmospheric composition contains highly reactive oxygen at levels that could degrade our equipment. Their microbial diversity suggests possible pathogens, our filters, haven't encountered. And the weather patterns— Enough! Jin's fist came down hard. "The invasion proceeds as scheduled. The Galactic Empire has conquered 1,000 worlds. What challenge could one primitive planet present?" After the transmission ended, Day One ordered the bridge cleared except for essential personnel. Hana remained organizing her data. "You've upset the Admiral," Day One said quietly. "Better upset than dead," Hana replied. "Captain, please, request a full biological survey before the invasion. Look at these weather pattern simulations." The holographic display showed massive swirling storms, towering thunderheads, and violent wind patterns. Their planet creates weather systems that could disable our atmospheric craft. "Our ships can withstand anything," Day One countered. But uncertainty crept into his voice. "And what about these?" Hana displayed microscopic images. Organisms smaller than our sensor threshold, billions in every handful of their soil. Some eat metal, others produce acid strong enough to dissolve our hull plating. Outside the viewport, the massive invasion fleet was beginning to arrive. Enormous dagger-shaped battleships, spherical troop carriers, and sleek attack craft by the thousands. The Empire's might on full display. Captain Day One watched as a small object, primitive and chemical-powered, rose from Earth to meet them. A human spacecraft, embarrassingly simple compared to Imperial technology. "They're broadcasting a message," the communications officer announced. "Audio only in multiple mathematical sequences. It appears to be a greeting." "Ignore it," Day One ordered, following protocol for Class 3 invasions. No communication until after submission. As Earth rotated, below he could see massive storms forming across one continent, lightning flickering within the clouds. The strange blue world seemed almost alive, pulsing with energy and danger. For the first time in his career, Captain Day One felt a flicker of doubt. "The Empire has conquered 1,000 worlds," he repeated to himself quietly as the invasion armada assembled. But something about this blue planet felt different. Perhaps he should have listened to Hana after all. General Kyung stood in the command module of the assault carrier as it pierced Earth's upper atmosphere, his four-fingered hands clasped behind his back. The vast invasion fleet darkened the skies above every major human city. Thousands of dropships descended through clouds, their heat shields glowing orange against the blue planet's sky. "Final approach to landing zone," announced the pilot. "Atmospheric. Composition matches survey data." Kyung nodded. "Begin troop deployment, standard conquest formation." On the tactical display, green dots representing Imperial forces spread across the continent they designated North America. The Empire's strategy never changed because it never needed to. Overwhelming force applied simultaneously across a planet's population centers. "Sir, ground teams reporting unusual resistance to movement," said Communications Officer Pak, his brow ridge furrowed. "2nd Battalion requests permission to adjust exosuits." "Granted," Kyung said, dismissing the concern. New World jitters were common among the troops. The dropship touched down with a heavy thud. When the doors opened, Kyung immediately felt it, a crushing, invisible weight. His ceremonial armor, light as fabric on the Imperial homeworld, now pressed painfully against his shoulders. "Status report," he gasped into his communicator, forcing himself to stand straight. "All landing zones secured, General," responded Commander Yoon, her voice strained. "Minimal human resistance encountered, but something's wrong. The soldiers can barely march. Our standard patrol cycle is taking 3 times longer than expected." Kyung stepped out onto Earth's soil, feeling his body fight against the planet's pull. The dropship had landed in what humans called a park, a strangely deliberate patch of wild vegetation in their urban center. The air smelled wrong, too rich, too full of unknown particles. "Increase stimulant rations," Kyung ordered. "The troops will adapt." But 6 hours later they weren't adapting. Lieutenant Min led a perimeter patrol around the landing zone, his squad moving with the awkward, plodding pace of deep-sea divers. Their normally graceful bodies struggled against Earth's relentless gravity. "Control, this is Patrol 6, Min," reported between labored breaths. "Perimeter sweep complete. No human military response yet, but we're detecting civilian observation drones." Min paused as one of his soldiers, Private Gam, removed his helmet. "Private, reattach your breathing apparatus immediately." "It's malfunctioning, sir," Gam explained, his skin already taking on a bluish hue. "The filters are completely clogged with something." Min examined the helmet's air intake. The filtration system was covered with a slimy substance teeming with microscopic life. Before he could report this finding, Gam collapsed, his body convulsing as Earth's oxygen, too rich, too reactive, flooded his unprepared lungs. "Medic!" Min shouted, but then felt his own breathing apparatus struggling, the mechanism whirring, loudly as it fought against invisible invaders. Back at Imperial Command, Strategic Director Sung Min watched in growing disbelief as casualty reports flooded the main display. Not from human resistance, there had been almost none, but from environmental factors. "This is impossible," he muttered, scrolling through. Medical alerts. 300 respiratory failures, 600 cases of muscular collapse. We've been on this rock for less than a day. His assistant, Jun, looked equally concerned. The medical division reports unknown microbes bypassing our sterilization fields. They're adapting to our countermeasures almost immediately. Sungmin slammed his fist on the console. These humans should be cowering in their shelters. Instead, they're just watching us struggle. The surveillance feed showed humans observing from a distance, some even recording with primitive devices, but making no move to engage. "Deploy the second wave," Sungmin ordered. "Triple the garrisoning force at each landing zone. Whatever this planet is doing to our troops, we'll overcome it with numbers." As the order went out, warning alarms blared. On the main view screen, massive storm systems were forming with unnatural speed along the western coastline. Wind speeds doubled in minutes, creating a swirling vortex that meteorologists identified as a hurricane, a storm type they'd been briefed about but hadn't expected to encounter. "Incoming dropships can't maintain course through those wind patterns," reported the air traffic controller. "Transport groups 7 through 10 requesting new landing coordinates." "Denied." "They will maintain course as ordered," Sungmin insisted. On the screen, 3 transport ships carrying over 2,000 troops each veered wildly as they hit the storm wall. Their stabilizers, designed for the vacuum of space, failed against Earth's violent air currents. The ship spun uncontrollably before crashing into the ocean below. "No survivors detected from Transport 722, 725, and 731, Jun reported quietly. Sungmin stared at the casualty numbers in stunned silence. 6,000 troops lost, not to enemy fire, but to wind and water. Outside the command center, Earth's sun was setting, casting long shadows across the landing zone. The night would bring new challenges, temperature drops, different predators, more unknown variables. A junior officer approached with a new report. "Sir, the humans appear to be evacuating their cities, but not in panic. It's organized, and their communications we've intercepted suggest they're deliberately drawing back." "Why would they retreat when we're vulnerable?" Sungmin wondered. Aloud. The answer came from an unexpected source, a captured human message playing across the emergency channel, a calm voice speaking in carefully practiced Imperial standard. "To the alien invasion force, we tried to warn you. Earth isn't like other worlds. It's taken us millions of years to adapt to this planet's dangers. You've had less than a day. We suggest you leave while you still can." As night fell completely, the sounds of Earth's creatures grew louder around. The Imperial landing zones. Something howled in the distance, a sound no Imperial soldier had ever heard before, and the medical bay continued to fill with troops whose bodies were failing against a world that seemed designed to kill them. Commander Junho sat motionless in the darkened war room as the holographic display replayed the disaster at Seoul for the 7th time. The Imperial forces had established their largest Earth base there, bringing in heavy walkers and energy cannons that should have made resistance impossible. Yet within 48 hours, the entire command structure had collapsed. "Play it again," he ordered, his voice tight. "Focus on the human counterattack." The footage showed a morning shrouded in thick fog, weather conditions the Imperial meteorologists had failed to predict. Then, emerging from the white mist like ghosts, came the humans, not in massive formations or with overwhelming technology, but in small coordinated teams, moving with a speed and endurance that seemed impossible. "Freeze image," Yunho commanded. The hologram paused on a human soldier, leaping across a 3-meter gap between buildings while carrying what appeared to be a heavy weapon. "How are they doing this? The gravity alone should limit such movement." Science Officer Ju Ri stepped forward, her slender form illuminated by the hologram's blue light. "They've evolved in this gravity, Commander. What's crushing for us is normal for them. And there's more." She brought up a series of biological scans. "Their muscle density is remarkable. Their bones contain multiple repair mechanisms. Even their blood carries oxygen more efficiently than any known sentient species." The war room door slid open as Admiral Kwan entered, his usually immaculate uniform showing signs of hasty preparation. "The High Council is demanding answers. We've lost 4 major strongholds in the past week alone." Yunho pointed to the display. "The humans aren't fighting conventionally, Admiral. They're using Earth itself against us." The hologram shifted to new footage, Imperial troops struggling through a mountain pass in the region called Alps. Suddenly, a rumbling sound preceded an avalanche of snow and rock, burying an entire battalion in seconds. "No explosives detected," Jury explained. "They simply waited for our heavy walkers to create vibrations, then triggered the unstable snowpack with minimal force. They understand their planet's killing potential." Admiral Kwan's face darkened. "The desert base in what they call Sahara has gone silent. All 3,000 troops," Jury nodded grimly. "Sandstorms. They can strip the protective coating from our equipment in hours. The humans simply wait until our systems fail, then move in." "They've evolved in this nightmare," Yunho said quietly, zooming in on human soldiers moving comfortably through conditions that had killed dozens of Imperial troops. "Everything that's killing us has shaped them for millennia." Across the world, in a hardened bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Ramirez studied a global holographic map where red dots representing Imperial forces were gradually being erased. "The desert and mountain campaigns are working," she told the assembled human leaders. "But they're learning, adapting their equipment. We need to push harder." Defense Minister Chen nodded, his weathered face reflecting the holographic light. "The ocean offensive begins tonight. Admiral Patel's submarines are in position around their floating platform in the Pacific." The assembled leaders, representing nations that had been enemies just weeks before, now worked with seamless coordination. Earth's divided history had ended the moment the first Imperial ships darkened the skies. "What about the captured alien scientist?" asked Chen. "Has she provided useful intelligence?" Ramirez nodded to Dr. Garcia, who brought up new schematics. "The Imperial bioengineers were attempting to modify their troops to survive Earth conditions. Their genetic adaptation techniques are centuries beyond ours, but they fundamentally misunderstand Earth's ecology. They're treating symptoms rather than adapting holistically. Beneath the Pacific Ocean, human submarines surrounded the massive Imperial floating base. Unlike their land operations, the aliens had successfully established a stable presence on Earth's oceans, where the gravity effects were partially offset by buoyancy." Aboard the submarine Mariana, Captain Noor watched through the periscope as Imperial aircraft patrolled above the massive floating structure. "For their sensors can't penetrate our ocean beyond 30 meters, she told her crew. "They evolved on a world with small, shallow seas. They fear deep water instinctively." "Weapons range in 3 minutes, Captain," reported her first officer. Noor smiled grimly. "No weapons. Not yet." She turned to a specialized team of oceanographers and marine biologists. "Doctor, are we positioned correctly?" Dr. Kondo nodded, studying complex current patterns on his display. "Perfect position. The underwater charges will disrupt the thermocline exactly as modeled. When the deep, cold water rises, it will trigger a microburst storm directly above their base," Noor finished. "Nature does our work for us." Above, the Imperial base's commander was puzzled by sudden temperature changes in the water below. Before their meteorologists could analyze the data, a massive downdraft of air slammed into the floating platform, tearing apart its delicate stabilization systems. As the structure began to break apart, emergency evacuation pods launched, but the violent air currents smashed them back down into the churning sea. In the Himalayan mountains, Imperial scouts discovered their forward base surrounded by strange metal containers. "Threat analysis inconclusive," reported the security officer. "No explosives or energy signatures detected." The base commander ordered a perimeter sweep, but found nothing else unusual, until dawn, when the sun heated the containers. The Imperial troops watched in confusion as they began emitting clouds of vapor. "It's just water," said the science officer, puzzled. But within an hour the vapor had accumulated in the thin mountain air, forming clouds that blocked the weak sunlight. Temperature plummeted rapidly. Imperial environmental suits, already strained, by weeks of continuous use, began failing in the extreme cold. As the last emergency beacon went silent, human mountain troops emerged from caves where they'd sheltered comfortably through the artificial storm. Their bodies adapted to high altitudes and cold temperatures through thousands of generations of evolution. Back in the war room, Commander Yunho added another failed base to the casualty list. "We're fighting an entire planet," he told Admiral Quan, "and its natives have had millions of years to perfect the art of survival here." For the first time in Imperial history, victory seemed not just difficult but impossible. Earth wasn't just resisting, it was actively rejecting them, with humanity serving as the immune system of a world that had been dangerous long before. Humans evolved, and had shaped them into the perfect defenders for a death world. Engineer Dong wiped sweat from her brow as she tightened the final reinforcement bolt on the captured Imperial shuttle. 6 months of reverse engineering alien technology had taught humanity more than centuries of their own research could have achieved. The hangar around her bustled with activity as dozens of engineers and technicians prepared the fleet of modified vessels. "Try it now," she called to her assistant, who sat in the pilot's chair. The ship hummed to life, its control panels glowing with soft blue light. But when her assistant gripped the control yoke, it cracked under his fingers. "Still too fragile," Dong muttered, making notes on her tablet. "Their materials are designed for species with about 60% of our grip strength." She pulled a reinforcement kit from her workbench. "We'll need to overlay all contact surfaces with titanium ceramic composite." Across the massive underground facility, similar adjustments were being made to hundreds of captured Imperial vessels. The aliens had expected to recover their damaged ships after the invasion, never imagining humans would be able to operate their advanced technology. They had been wrong about many things. Captain Olivia stood on the observation deck, watching. The Earth grow smaller through the view screen. The captured Imperial cruiser, renamed Humanity's Reach, accelerated smoothly toward the moon. Her crew, a mixture of military pilots, aerospace engineers, and civilian scientists, worked with growing confidence at their stations. "Engine output stable at 80%, reported Lieutenant Patel from the engineering console. "The reinforcements are holding." "Good," Olivia replied. "Maintain course for the lunar supply base and activate the stealth systems Engineer Dong installed." The ship shimmered briefly as the modified Imperial cloaking technology engaged. Unlike the original design, which couldn't handle the electromagnetic variations near Earth, Dong's version used Earth's own magnetic field as a calibration baseline. "Stealth systems functional," confirmed the tactical officer. "We're effectively invisible to Imperial sensors." The journey to the moon took only hours in the advanced ship, a trip that would have required days using humanity's pre-invasion technology. As they approached the lunar surface, the massive Imperial supply base came into view. Dozens of ships docked at orbiting platforms, transferring materials to the ground facilities. "They've turned our moon into their staging area," Olivia said quietly. "No wonder their troops kept coming despite the casualties." The attack plan was simple but effective. 20 modified Imperial ships, each carrying a special forces team, would target key infrastructure simultaneously. The humans had studied Imperial protocols thoroughly, learning that their rigid command structure was vulnerable to unexpected threats. "All teams in position," Olivia announced over the secure channel. "Operation Homeward begins in 3, 2, 1, execute." Across the lunar base, the cloaked ships decloaked simultaneously as they landed. Imperial security forces, accustomed to total control of the moon, were caught completely unprepared as human soldiers in modified environmental suits swarmed through the facilities. Unlike the Imperial forces, who struggled in Earth's gravity, humans found the moon's 1/6 gravity liberating. They bounded across open spaces in great leaps, covering ground faster than the Imperial troops could respond. Their enhanced strength, a product of evolution on a high-gravity world, allowed them to tear through barriers that would have stopped the aliens. In the main communications center, Olivia's team worked quickly to secure the facility. An Imperial officer reached for an alarm, but found his arm caught in the iron grip of a human soldier. "Your physiology is fascinating," the soldier said almost conversationally as he effortlessly subdued the alien. You evolved in a much gentler environment than we did. Within 2 hours, the entire lunar base was under human control. The capture provided not just a strategic victory, but a treasure trove of Imperial technology and tactical data. Most importantly, they secured the communications array that connected the invasion force to the Empire's home systems. Aboard the Imperial flagship, Eternal Dominion, Admiral Doe received the first reports of the lunar base's fall with stunned disbelief. "Impossible," he whispered, watching security footage of humans moving with impossible speed and strength through the base. They're just primitives." His strategic officer shook his head. "No, Admiral. We misunderstood from the beginning. They're not primitive. They're survivors of conditions that would kill most species in the galaxy." Doe composed himself before transmitting his report to the Emperor. The holographic image of the Imperial sovereign appeared, regal and imposing. But Doe noticed something new in the Emperor's eyes: uncertainty. "The humans have captured our lunar base," Doe reported. "They've adapted our own ships for their use, and they're advancing beyond their planet." "How?" the Emperor demanded. "Our forces outnumber them. Our technology is superior. Their bodies are the weapon we didn't account for," Doe explained, showing footage of humans operating in vacuum conditions that Imperial troops required extensive protection against. "They don't just survive their death world, they thrive because of it. Earth's gravity, atmosphere, pathogens, and climate variations have created a species with physical capabilities far beyond our own." The Emperor watched silently as the footage showed human soldiers lifting equipment that would require mechanical assistance for Imperial troops, running tirelessly through environments that would exhaust his best warriors. "Begin the strategic withdrawal," the Emperor finally ordered. "All forces are to pull back beyond the asteroid belt. We need time to reassess." But time was running out. Within days of capturing the lunar base, human-crewed Imperial ships pushed outward, establishing control over Mars and the resource-rich asteroid belt. Engineer Dong's modifications allowed humans to operate the ships more efficiently than their original pilots, turning the Empire's technology against them. From the observation deck of the newly established Mars Command, Olivia watched as the first human-built ships incorporating Imperial technology rolled out of makeshift factories. What had begun as simple survival had evolved into something more: humanity's first steps into the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as defenders of their deadly home. "They thought Earth was a death trap," she told her officers as the sleek new vessels rose from the Martian surface. "They were right, but it's our death trap, and now we're taking that strength to the stars." The neutral space station hung in orbit around a gas giant in the Proxima system, its crystalline structure gleaming in the light of an alien sun. Inside the Grand Hall, representatives from 100 worlds gathered to witness what no living being had thought possible: the signing of a peace treaty between the Galactic Empire and an undefeated world. Emperor Quan entered with his usual ceremonial guard, though their numbers were notably reduced after the devastating losses of the Earth campaign. His 7-foot frame, impressive to most species, seemed somehow diminished next to the human delegation. Ambassador Li stood calmly at the center of the Earth representatives, her posture relaxed but alert. A predator at ease, but ready. "We are prepared to begin," announced the Arbiter, a member of an ancient neutral species chosen to oversee the proceedings. The treaty document hovered as a hologram between the two parties. Its terms had been negotiated over 3 grueling months, with the humans proving as formidable at diplomacy as they were at warfare. Emperor Quan spoke first, his translator converting his complex tonal language into Earth's dominant tongues. "For 9,000 cycles, the Empire has brought order and advancement to the galaxy. No world has resisted us successfully." He paused, mandibles clicking in what his species considered a sign of reluctant acceptance. "Until Earth." Ambassador Li stepped forward. Unlike the Emperor, she wore no ceremonial armor or royal indicators, just a simple uniform that allowed freedom of movement. This itself was telling. Humans remained ready for action even in supposed peace. "Earth does not seek conquest," Lee said, her voice carrying easily through the hall. We only wished to defend our home. But when that home was threatened, we discovered truths about ourselves and about the galaxy. She gestured to a display showing Earth's weather patterns, tectonic activity, gravitational pull, and atmospheric composition, all factors that had decimated the Imperial invasion force. Our world forged us through millions of years of evolutionary pressure, Lee continued. What you call a death trap, we call home. What kills your soldiers trains our children. The Empire has built its power by conquering gentle worlds with species who never needed to adapt to harsh conditions. Emperor Quan's facial ridges flushed with the deep purple of controlled anger. Your kind are dangerous, unnatural. No sentient species should be able to endure what you consider normal. And yet we exist, Lee replied simply. We are not unnatural. We are simply the product of a world that demands strength, adaptability, and cooperation to survive. These are qualities the galaxy needs. The treaty terms appeared on the main display for all assembled representatives to see. The most significant clause glowed prominently. Earth and its solar system are hereby recognized as an independent power, not subject to imperial authority or tribute. Emperor Quan pressed his seal against the document with obvious reluctance. When Ambassador Lee did the same, a murmur ran through the assembled representatives. Many belonged to species conquered generations ago, who had never imagined freedom from imperial rule was possible. After the formal signing, Imperial Science Director Rowe approached the human delegation with barely contained excitement. Our xenobiologists have created a new classification for your species, he told Lee. Humans are now officially designated as Deathworlders, the first encountered in Imperial recorded history. A title we neither sought nor celebrate, Lee responded, but one we accept. In the reception that followed, something unprecedented occurred. Representatives from dozens of subjugated worlds approached the humans, not with fear of their strength, but with hope in their eyes. A delegate from Proxima IV, a world conquered 3 centuries earlier, spoke quietly to Lee. My ancestors tell stories of resistance that failed. How did you succeed where all others failed? We had an advantage you didn't, Lee explained. Earth itself fought alongside us, but more importantly, she glanced toward Emperor Quan, who was watching the interactions with clear concern. We never learned to submit. Even before the invasion, humans fought constantly, against nature, against each other, against limitations of all kinds. Outside the station's viewports, the combined fleet hung in space. Imperial warships now keeping a respectful distance from the smaller but surprisingly formidable human vessels. Engineer Dong's innovations had already pushed human space technology decades ahead, incorporating Imperial advances but making them more robust, more adaptable, more human. 6 months after the peace treaty, Earth established its first extrasolar colony. Unlike Imperial conquests, this was done with careful study of the local ecosystem and minimal disruption. When a devastating solar flare hit the colony, Imperial observers expected heavy casualties. Instead, the humans not only survived, but thrived, having built shielding based on Earth's natural magnetic field. In the Imperial capital, Emperor Quan faced growing pressure from worlds inspired by Earth's example. The old ways of conquest and subjugation no longer seemed inevitable or unquestionable. When a coalition of 40 worlds presented a petition for greater autonomy, Quan found himself making unprecedented concessions. They're changing everything, complained Grand Admiral Huan. The Empire has stood unchanged for millennia. And perhaps that was our mistake, replied the Emperor, watching footage of human settlers adapting Imperial technology to function in environments no Imperial engineer had ever considered possible. They've shown us that adaptation isn't just for survival, it's for advancement. In the Imperial archives, Earth's designation was formally updated. No longer classified as a death trap to be avoided, it received a new title: Crucible World, birthplace of the galaxy's most resilient species. And across the galaxy, on 1,000 worlds, the whispered stories spread. Of a small blue planet that had done the impossible, of a species shaped by fire and storm and gravity, who carried that strength to the stars not as conquerors, but as survivors. The old empire began its slow transformation into something new, a federation where strength came from diversity rather than conformity, where adaptation was valued over tradition. And at diplomatic gatherings, even the proudest imperial representatives now stood a respectful distance from the humans, the Deathworlders who had changed the galaxy not through superior technology or numbers, but through bodies and minds forged in Earth's unforgiving crucible. The end.